Apparently, there's a golden generation for the US soccer team coming up. We call it football now, by the way. So I've created 4 perfect players on Football Manager to help them try to actually win something. I also gave them the best American names possible. And I placed all 4 of them at different teams in the MLS, age 16, with the lowest loyalty possible. So I'm hoping that they move clubs a lot, and we can follow their careers, as hilarious as they will be. So starting off with the goalkeeper at New York City, we have Mintz Vukman. At centre-back with 20 out of 20 leadership, we have Toronto Dump at DC United. Bitch slapping his way through the midfield at LA Galaxy, it's Smil Whiff. And finally, you've got a friend in me. Hom Tanks is the striker in this experiment playing at Austin FC. But in the first season, Mintz Vukman's New York side won the 34 league campaign. But Portland won the MLS Cup. Which is of course because this is America and we need some kind of playoff system, damn it. In Qatar, the US were knocked out in the second round by the Dutch. But for some reason, they didn't take any of the 4 players with them. And the end of Season 2, all the players were still at their original clubs, but only Toronto Dump has some interest from Liverpool and Man City. They were now all, however, in the US men's national team. In Season 2, Real Salt Lake won both the League Cup and the playoffs without any of our 4 players, although Hom Tanks was a top scorer and had the highest average rating. But another year later, and all of them have moved clubs. And 3 of them are at Arsenal. Let's start off with Toronto Dump, who is the only player to not move to Arsenal. He has gone to Manchester City instead. We can see £13.25 billion. A bit of a bargain, and he finds himself in the Premier League, having 1 assist already from that centre-back role and playing very well as well. And he's also got £300,000 a week contract. He's only 18 years of age. Now, I'm quite surprised City didn't really make the move. Now, I'm quite surprised that Man City didn't make the move for Mintz Vukman. That's very hard to say because obviously New York City and Manchester City have the City Group link, so I thought it would have been quite obvious for that to happen, but instead he moved to Arsenal for £57 million. And the other 2 players obviously joined them. We've got Smil Whiff, who also moved to Arsenal from Real Salt Lake. So actually, Real Salt Lake did win with one of these players because he signed on a free transfer, Smil Whiff, which I didn't realise happened. And then they sold him for £29.5 million. Interesting. Then we have Hom Tanks, who was at Austin FC. He is now moved to Arsenal, £22 million. Arsenal have just had the best transfer window ever. They've gained 3 of the 4 best players in the world, and they've all signed them for around about less than £30 million. They should be winning the Premier League. They are first. It's still Arteta. They are currently in first place. And there's no surprise that they won the Premier League that season as well, after Man City won 4 in a row. Hom Tanks was the top scorer. Smil Whiff was also in the highest average rating. And Mintz Vukman managed to get the most clean sheets in that season. They also won the Champions League after defeating Barcelona in the final in Munich, which is a fantastic accomplishment that they've managed to do there. Have they won it recently? They haven't. Both Man City and Liverpool won it, and now Arsenal, so the English dominance there. Hom Tanks did get 10 goals that season as well. But of course, the US, they're going into the next World Cup, which I believe is going to be hosted in Mexico, the US and Canada, and these guys are going to be 19-20. Now, the US only finished second in their group, Group A, alongside Norway, who managed to go through with Erling Haaland getting the top scorer of the whole competition, but they did not go very far. Germany are the winners. They defeated England in the final, which is not great for me, of course, but if you go back, you'll have to go quite far back before you find the US, because it looks like they did not have a very good competition at all. And it's, of course, this new format that we possibly might see for the World Cup, which I'm not pleased with. Mexico, there were eliminated by Croatia. They're obviously the hosts as well. They were knocked down by Brazil 2-1. Timothy Weah scored. Ivan Nielsen got 2 goals there. But if you take a look at the US side, Mintz Vukman is in there. Toronto Dump is in there. Smil Whiff is in there. But it doesn't look like they had Hom Tanks. Oh, they did have Hom Tanks. He just didn't score. So they had all 4. And none of them did very well at all. We return just a couple of seasons later because there's been a bit of movement. Smil Whiff has moved to PSG. As you can see, the other 3 players are still there. Age 21 now. He moved for £118 million. He made only 1 appearance for Arsenal at the start of the season and then only 11 for PSG, and that is because he broke his ankle and was out for 5 months in total this season, which is obviously not fantastic for Smil-With. Now, he's got 55 caps for the US, and if we do take a look at them, they have gone and won something. They have won the CONCACAF Gold Cup back-to-back, so they've won it 2 times in a row. I know some people will ask about this. It's not something I'm going to focus on too much, but I will reference it. They've won it back-to-back. It's only really them and Mexico who ever really go for it, to be honest. It's been a while since anybody but Canada in 2000 managed to win it. It's mainly the World Cups that we're going to be focusing on. More movement a season later as Homtanks moves to Madrid and Real Madrid. He's on now 475 grand a week. We'll take a look at the other players in a sec. But this was a £121 million move, so Arsenal really profiting off these players, despite obviously losing them and probably not being as good anymore. He did have some fantastic campaigns for them, obviously 5 seasons there at Arsenal, who have been winning the leagues, but they haven't been dominating. Chelsea, Man City and Newcastle have all been there as well. Despite Homtanks moving, he was still the second highest top scorer this season, even though he was signed in January, which is quite astounding. He scored 12 goals in his 13 appearances for Real Madrid, and I have that league loaded, and they did not win it, which is quite funny, to be fair, because the year that he joined, come off the back of 3 seasons, Real Madrid did win the league, so that's quite funny, and Carlo Ancelotti is still there. Of the other 3 players, though, Mintz Vukman is still at Arsenal. He's on 200k a week. He's doing very well. 24 clean sheets in 37 games is nothing to be shy about. Smil-With, of course, at PSG. He's had a better time, but he's still not getting all of the game time, and he's not getting injured too much, although another 3 months out there. Really, this is just not his time, is it? Maybe he should just move because he's not having the best of time in France. And Trono Dump is still at Manchester City and still playing quite a lot. He's on 450k a week as well. As we go into the next World Cup in 2030, we can see that all 4 players are still at the same club. No movement there. And if we have a look at the US men's national team, we are in a group, we have qualified, which we probably expected to qualify with the team that we have. And we're in a group with China and Poland. That's quite controversial against the Chinese for political reasons, obviously. So we'll see how they get on. But if we have a look, we've got Jaime Hallgrimsson as their manager. We've got Trono Dump as the captain. 20 leadership, of course. And Homtanks is their key player right now. And if we take a look, all 4 of them are in the team. I wonder whether Smil-With was them, but he is in the team, and they're all fit and healthy for now. The World Cup was won by Italy, but United States did qualify as first in their group. They beat both Poland and China, beating China 3-0 in fact. In the round of 16, they got through, of course. They beat Zambia 6-0. I really don't like this new format, by the way. I understand that more nations qualify, but they're not exactly exciting games, are they? In the 3rd round, they still went through. They beat England 4-1 in that match, which is fantastic. Tyler Adams, Timothy Weah, Pepe, and Mihajlovic. None of our actual 4 focus players did actually score, but I think most of them played. Maybe not Homtanks is the only one I can't see there in the 3rd round. In the quarter-final, though, that's where it came to an end. They were knocked out by those bloody Norwegians again. Erling Haaland and his side knocked him out on penalties after Mihajlovic and Tessmann missed both of the penalties. We can see Homtanks was back in the lineup for that one, and it does look like every single one of the players did actually play. Maybe not the centre midfielder Smil-With. But there we go. I think he might have actually have been suspended, if I remember correctly. But there we go. They were knocked out in the quarter-final of this round. And by the way, in the final, just in case you are curious, it was Portugal and Italy won 3-1. 4 years later, all players are aged 27. Nobody's moved. I'm quite surprised. Real Madrid then, let's have a look at them with Homtanks. Have they been winning the league? So they've won this league. They didn't win the season previous, but they have been dominating since Homtanks has been there. They've also got Endrick as well, so they've got a fantastic side with Postecoglou as their manager. Very interesting indeed that Endrick is their key player and not Homtanks, which weird. Mintz Vukman is still at Arsenal. They are top of the league. Still have Arteta. They have won a couple of league campaigns recently as well. 2 out of the last 4 that we have been seeing quite recently, which means Man City hasn't. They've won it 5 years ago now, so that means it's been quite bad for our centre-back Tronald Dump, of course, who is at Manchester City. We'll take a look at the Champions League in a sec because Smil With, we need to have a look at him first. At PSG, has he been playing? He still hasn't been getting as much game time as what I thought, considering he is the best centre midfielder in the world. And I have made sure they've got one injury proneness, so they should be playing as much as physically possible. It's pointless really checking, but they have been dominating Ligue 1, and Paulo Fonseca is their manager there. So it's all down to the Champions League, really. Who's got bragging rights in the Champions League before we have a look? I mean, it's Arsenal again. Arsenal and Man City have won it recently. Real Madrid won it a couple of times there, which I think Home Tanks would have been there as well. So I think 3 out of the 4 now have won the Champions League, if I am correct, because Man City have won it, Arsenal and Real Madrid. I literally think it is only Smil With who has yet to win a Champions League, and that is because when he has been at Arsenal, maybe he actually won one at Arsenal. That could be a time that he's won it. We'll have to have a look. They did. So all 4 of them have won Champions Leagues. That's nice. I'm glad. I am pleased. I thought he might feel a little bit left out. He's been a little bit unlucky, has Smil with his injuries. But we are now going into another World Cup. It is the World Cup of 2034. We have Philip Cocu as the manager there of the US national team. They are ranked 3rd in the world. There's one thing I forgot to really check at the start. They are ranked 3rd in the world now, which is quite interesting, only behind Germany and France. Tronald Dump is still their captain and their key player now. They are in a Group J, which this is hosted by China as well. So Group J, which is in the group alongside. There's way too many groups. I absolutely hate this. I really do hate this. They're in there with Turkey and Chile. So they should easily get through that group as well. And they did get through that group nice and easily. 2 wins from 2 there, 2-0 and a 3-0. But unfortunately, Italy won the World Cup again. And it doesn't look very good for our team here. So they defeated the Ivory Coast 3-2 in the second round. In the third round, they defeated Canada, which is, yeah, that's a great result for them, isn't it? Tronald Dump actually scored within the 3rd minute there, which is fantastic for them. But going into the quarterfinals, where it all fell apart again, they lost to Spain there, with Belgium, Germany and Italy all going through. Ecuador getting quite far. The semi-final was then contested and Italy beat Spain. Germany lost to Belgium, which meant the final was Italy, who beat Belgium 3-1 in that final. So they're still not doing very well in this, and they are still all at the same clubs, I believe, so they haven't actually moved yet. Whether they will as we go forward before the next World Cup, because they're all age 28 now, maybe the chance for their last big move and their big contract. Right, well, I do think we have had a bit of movement, because as we can see, Vince McMahon is still at Arsenal. He has been there from the very beginning. Smil With is now at Real Madrid, so he has moved from PSG, and I think out of all of them, he was the one who needed a move. It was a free transfer after not playing quite a lot throughout the last couple of seasons, 27, 26 games. But there is something really interesting to take note of. Obviously, the guys are age 31 now, as you can see here, international. They are with the squad for the next World Cup, but 2 of them are not. One of them being Tronald Dump, who has retired from international football after the last World Cup, as well as Hom Tanks, who retired on the same day. And that's really disappointing because they're retiring at the age of 28. It's something that I've seen quite regularly in Football Manager this year. I don't know whether it's ever happened previously. Hom Tanks also, which I didn't realise, he went on a loan move. As the best striker in the world, he went on loan to Villarreal and scored 12 goals in 15 games in the 2031-32 season. Completely missed that one. But there we go. Is anybody else? I don't think anybody else has moved, but that's really bizarre. I just find it really weird. They retire so early. Now, in this World Cup, of course, now they have 2 less opportunities. Well, 2 players give them less opportunities. They are in a group with Austria and Algeria. And if we take a look at the United States, Philip Cocu is still the manager here. We got Vince McMahon as the captain, and the key player is Smil With, who's also the vice captain. They're currently ranked in 6th. And you're not going to believe it, but without the other 2 guys, they have won the World Cup. I cannot believe it. So let's take a look at it. It was a 1-1 draw in the final where they defeated the Netherlands on penalties. Now, none of the guys actually took the penalties, but they have still gone on and won it. Ollie Wolf there, who doesn't look very good at all. We've got, yeah, I don't know how they've done it. I mean, there we go. Mintz Vukman has won man of the match there. It looks like he has saved a couple of penalties in the final, which meant that they ended up going on and winning it. So let's take a look then at the whole campaign, starting off with the group stage and how have they done in the group. I'd imagine they went through top. They did. Into the second round then, and they defeated Japan 3-2 there. In the third round, they went through on penalties against Mexico. So again, another rivalry there in the third round, and they overcome them only through penalties. Quarter-final, they knocked out Germany, which of course they held the title a couple of World Cups ago, and then it looked very difficult for them. They defeated England after extra time in the semi-final. Oh my god, after, by the looks of it, going 1-0 up in the 91st minute, then conceding in the 94th, and then scoring through Ante Petrovic, who is probably Croatian. He is Croatian as well. Just the name, isn't it? Scoring in the 99th minute. And obviously, England also missed a penalty in the semi-final, because that's what England does. Not very many players that you recognise in there, Jude Bellingham being one of them. But Mintz Vukman won the player of the match in that leg as well, in the semi-final. Well, I can't quite believe it. We'll go forward to the next World Cup. I mean, these guys are now quite old, so I don't imagine that they will last too many World Cups. But I definitely think at least one of them is probably the goalkeeper as well, will end up in the next World Cup, and we'll obviously see where they end up in their club competitions. Okay, they're all age 35. They're all at the same club, which I am quite surprised with. Vince McMahon has been there. Mintz Vukman, I'm so sorry, has been there since the very beginning, obviously, when he made that move for £63 million. Smil With, has he been getting game time more than... Yeah, he's been playing pretty much a little bit more than what he did. Actually, he's done so much better since he's been with Real Madrid. I'm guessing that they're sometimes using him as a striker. He is good enough, to be fair, that we can see there. Tom Hanks, or Hom Tanks, is still at Real Madrid as well. He is still scoring a lot of goals. And finally, Tronald Dump is still at Manchester City. And he's still playing? Yeah, 24 appearances there in the Premier League. So, Man City or Arsenal? It is Man City, and Pep Guardiola is still there. Has he been there from the beginning? Did he? No, he has. 2016. He's been there for a very long time now. We're at 2042. So, a very long campaign for them. Arsenal have won it a couple of times, but it does look like Man City have been the better side within the last few years. What about the La Liga? Barcelona have won it. Almeria won it last season. Wow. Okay, and Real Madrid won it 3 seasons before that. Very surprising. But the Americans, where are they? So we've still got, by the looks of it, one player left. Mintz Vukman has retired right before, well, last year. So it is just Smil With left, who is holding on to the US national team, which is fantastic. Going into the World Cup as holders, of course, of this competition. How would they fare in this one, which is being held in England, which is quite nice. They are against Peru and Croatia in their group. Well, they couldn't win it because Brazil have won the World Cup. They defeated the Netherlands 1-0 at Wembley after extra time in the final. I can't see Smil With doing very well there. So if we take a look at the groups and just see how they finally did they even get out of their group? That would be embarrassing if they didn't get out of their group. They did. They won both games as well, defeating both teams 2-0. So they did go through to the second round. Then they defeated Senegal in the third round. Where did they... Oh, they lost to Brazil on penalties. So they eventually lost to the winners on penalties there. Was Smil With actually playing? He was still playing, so that's good. That is nice that he's still playing in this competition. Did any of the other players end up moving? It doesn't look like it, but we're going to call the video at the end there. I really hope you enjoyed it. Why not check out this video, by the way, because I made me and Dad a manager with perfect attributes. And we went so far into the future, and the results are hilarious. Go check it out.